Alright, hey guys, welcome at last to another character spotlight. Ever since the dragon video, I've wanted to make another spotlight on Lloyd. However, I ran into a little bit of trouble. Last arena season, I recorded an entire video. However, I felt like Lloyd wasn't being showcased enough in the video, so I deleted it, and then by that point, the arena season had already ended. And it's kind of hard to make these spotlights in the beginning of an arena season because I'm trying to actually get my normal run in for my maximum amount of points, and I can't do character spotlights during that. So I have to wait until the end of the season and etc. etc. Anyway, so it's the end of the season and I have some free dueling crests and I decided to finally re-record the Lloyd video. Actually, this time around, it should go better than last time because now supports are out. If you didn't see the support video I made, go ahead and check that out. I talk a lot about how supports actually work, but I feel like supports help out Lloyd a lot in specific, just because he benefits really well from all of the tanky stats due to how long he's in combat compared to other swordmasters, as well as the extra offensive stats being pretty nice on him. Also, in that last video, you saw that I S-ranked my Delphia as my summoner support. Luckily, the Tempest came out within that time, so I had plenty of fighting area to train up Lloyd to S-rank just for this video. So here's Lloyd. He's 40 plus 1. I promoted him and merged him right when he came out because Lloyd is my favorite character from Fire Emblem 7, and Fire Emblem 7 is my favorite game. So, yeah, obviously when he came out, I decided I would invest a lot in him no matter what. But he ended up being pretty decent. So, Lloyd is of a character archetype that is kind of not too popular anymore. However, it used to be very popular. And that is the Swordmaster archetype. Now, what I consider a Swordmaster is a sword user that has very high attack and speed, and they sacrifice their defensive stats for that. And pretty much for most of them, with the exception of something like Ryoma, you stick something like Life and Death on them in Desperation, and they get in Desperation range, and then they kill everybody. This was very common in the very, very early days, because Lyn was a thing, and she had Desperation on her sword. You saw a lot of Lyns running around, and later on, once Skill Inheritance came out, things like Hannah, less so Lonku, and other Swordmasters were around. There was a lot of sword units in general back in the day, so the Swordmaster pool was very competitive. Once Lloyd came out, he was actually pretty good, although I think it took people a while to get that because when he came out was around the point when Swordmasters were starting to get less popular. Nowadays, there's a lot tankier units and a lot more good blue units. The meta has shifted towards blue, which means that red Swordmasters are a little less good. It's mostly moved on to burst mages, but Lloyd still holds a special place in my heart just because he's my favorite character, and I still think this is a pretty fun build. It's not just the generic life and death. So the thing about Swordmasters is that they all have their own little niche to differentiate them. For example, if you want pure good stats, you get Hannah, because Hannah has the best Swordmaster stats in general. If you're having a lot of trouble with Swordbreaker, you can run Lyn, because she has Desperation built in on her legendary weapon, so she can run Brash Assault as her B skill, and if you didn't know, that goes through Swordbreaker. If you really want to double, you use Lonku because he has a lot of speed, but then he'll probably deal 0 damage. So what differentiates Lloyd between them? Well, Lloyd has two things on other Swordmasters. That's a legendary weapon, his Regal Blade, as well as his high resistance. The Regal Blade essentially gives him 16 might and attack and speed +2 when he attacks a enemy that is at 100%. Now, people will say that this ability isn't very good because the enemy has to be at 100%, but consider the fact that he is mainly used for bursting enemies from 100%. So either he's going to be attacking somebody at 100 and killing them, or he's going to be attacking somebody and because of his high attack, he'll just one-shot them anyway, in which case he wouldn't need the speed. So I pretty much treat this as +2 attack and speed just because of the way that Swordmasters work. And the Regal Blade also has 16 might, which is something that not a lot of other Swordmasters use. A lot of other Swordmasters will run something like Woe Dao or Slaying Edge and use that to spam something like Moonbow in order to increase their burst on their rotation. I do believe that does deal a little bit more damage. However, Lloyd's weapon essentially has 18 might, so I haven't done the calculations. But because he doesn't rely on spamming his special, he can go for a special that does deal more damage and has a higher cooldown. So I run Iceberg with him. With this specific loadout, he has 35 resistance, which is very good. Usually when a character starts getting to 30 res or higher is when you want to consider Iceberg. Same thing with Bonfire for defense. Then I also have Fury 3 on him. Now, a lot of people run Life and Death on their Swordmasters just because they increase their offensive stats, and with Swordmasters, all you really care about is offensive stats. And I do agree with that. On Hannah, I would be willing to sacrifice like 5 more defense and resistance for like 2 more attack. That's how little defensive stats matter when you're going for a full-out offensive Swordmaster. However, with Lloyd, I feel like you want to take advantage of his slightly higher tankiness. So because of that, I run Fury 3. You sacrifice 2 attack and 2 speed. However, the way that I like to think about it is because of Regal Blade, he kind of gets to 2 attack and speed back from that. Plus running Fury over Life and Death essentially is like +8 defense resistance. Obviously, it's not actually +8, but you're moving the -5 from Life and Death and getting the +3 from Fury. So because of the way that these skills are used, Lloyd will be slightly less good at just completely bursting people. However, he's much better at frontlining. He's got 35 resistance, like I said, which is a good amount for res tanking. And 25 defense isn't the best, but he does have, with DS support, 47 HP. That's another thing that I do want to talk about, though, his health points. Without all of this extra junk, base Lloyd at 5 stars has 41 HP, which is kind of unfortunate because it's 1 point off from the threshold of 40 HP, where you use 1 Ardent Sacrifice and you're in Desperation range. 40 HP with 1 Ardent Sacrifice, you're exactly in Desperation range, exactly at 75% of your health, and Lloyd is 1 health above that. And because he's a Grand Hero Battle unit, he doesn't have the ability to have a HP Bane. So Ardent Sacrifice, just 1 Ardent Sacrifice won't get him into Desperation range. So because of that, I decided there's no point in looming on it, and to kind of go all out with HP and tankiness instead. You can see I have a Reciprocal Aid instead of an Ardent Sacrifice. Now, running Ardent Sacrifice on your Lloyd is completely understandable. You can assume that he'll probably take 1 damage at least from Fury, because it deals 6 damage after combat guaranteed. So you can do something like get into combat, one-shot their mage or something, and then Ardent Sacrifice, and boom, you're in Desperation range. But because of my Lloyd's tanky-ish stats, I just kind of rely on him getting into Desperation range naturally from combat, and it usually works. Another thing with Reciprocal Aid is that he can steal his teammates' life bars to kind of get like a second health bar, sort of, so he can stay in the front lines longer. His C-Skills Threat and Attack, that's kind of I mainly have that there just for better dueling potential, but something like Threat and Defense, Panic Ploy, Defense ploy, haha. Defense ploy actually is decent on Lloyd. Another thing, like I did say, I have summoner support with him. Normally, I actually think you don't want to put summoner support on your swordmasters, just because the plus 5 HP could ruin, like I said, the Ardent Sacrifice to get into Desperation thing. However, with Lloyd, it does work. And I also have an S rank with a Dancer, just because Dancers plus Sweepers are usually a good idea. So yeah. And in order to kind of show off Lloyd, I built a little team around him. I have Delphia. Poor girl doesn't have S with me anymore. This is the same Delphia that was in the Dragon video, except now she has Hone Speed 3 instead of Drive Attack, just because I feel like the plus 4 speed is better on Lloyd, just to let him double more. I was actually considering putting Erica in here at first. I don't have enough room. However, after thinking about it just a little bit, Delphia is kind of better than Erica or Ephraim for buffing your physical units just in general, just because her weapon gives plus 6 attack rather than plus 3 attack. So she can run the exact same buffing loadout, except unlike Erica or Ephraim, she deals magic damage compared to the unit that they're presumably buffing, which would be physical damage. It would have to be, because of how Delphia's Dark Aura works. It only works on physical units and Dragonstones. So she can kind of counter the physical damage with good magic damage, get a nice balanced team on that. Her S is with Naui. I don't want to change that just for this video. I have Faye, same Faye from the Dragon video. She's just good to deal with any blue units, just because the rest of the characters aren't that good at dealing with blues. And then I have an Olivia. This is a pretty nasty Olivia. 4-star plus 4 with just a normal ruby sword. But she's a dancer, so she won't really be that much in combat. I considered using Azura instead, because I recently pulled an Azura, but I just haven't fully built her yet. And I really like Wings of Mercy with a Swordmaster unit, just because the Swordmaster will usually be in Wings of Mercy range. And I got an S rank with Olivia and Lloyd, just for that. So here's the team comp. We have 3 seals, and we're ready to do some battles. We got 3 hours left. Come on. Okay. So Olivia's a bonus unit, so we will be getting actual ratings. I was about to talk about the ratings will be lower just because I don't have a bonus unit, but I do. For future videos, though, just remember, sometimes I might have like 300 something rating just because I don't have a bonus unit. That doesn't mean that I'm not going against a bunch of level 40s. It's just a unit. This is new arena right here, man. Lins everywhere. That's one downside of recording this video when I am now rather than recording it from before. I have to deal with a bunch of Lins now, and this team is better, I think, than the Dragons for dealing with Lin, but it's still Lin. Okay, I'm gonna do the classic, put Faye in Reinhardt's range on turn 1 and kill him. Let's hope that Lin doesn't kill me and make me restart everything. Famous last words. Okay. How do we want to deal with this? We could send everybody back, but that just doesn't feel right, you know? Okay. I think I have a spicy idea here. Hopefully this is right. I don't know. I don't know if I want to take that risk, though. Okay, I was considering doing some spicy shenanigans and moving Delphia up there to try and one-shot Lin, but I don't think she'd one-shot Lin. And Lynn has 47 attack, which normally isn't a lot, but it's enough to kill Delphia because she has 8 defense. Oh, poor Delphia. Poor girl. What a predicament we are in. Okay. Well, when all else fails, just brute force your way in and hope that it all works out for the better. Olivia can tank Sonya, so I don't really have to care too much. Hopefully, the combined buffs of everything will let Lloyd survive this. Yeah, there you go. So Lloyd just survives through a Ninian. I didn't see if she had a Triangle Adept, but if she did, he survives through it just because he has high res. He's gaining a little bit of extra stats because the Olivia is 1 spot away from him. And there you go. We just kind of brute forced our way through that one with Lloyd. I thought I was going to have to do some much spicier shenanigans there. Okay. Match 1 turned out better than expected. Okay, unlike a lot of other reds, Lloyd is kind of less good at dealing against Hectors, just because Hectors have a higher defense, higher attack, and Lloyd is kind of lacking the defense outlet. One thing to talk about, though, the wiki for some reason thinks that because Lloyd favors res over defense, it makes him worse than a lot of other Swordmasters, which I don't necessarily agree with, because with Swordmasters, normally you don't really care about defensive stats in the first place. And with Lloyd in specific, like, he's the one Swordmaster that does kind of care about a defensive stat in res. So I don't really get how the tier list, what their logic is with that. Just, what was it, the tier list? Don't listen to the tier list, guys. The tier list, the wiki tier list is what I'm talking about. They have some good ideas, but you can tell that a lot of their ideas are subjective and a little Okay. This should be fine. Okay. A Vaulter? Don't see a lot of Vaulters nowadays, do we? Does this guy have Vantage? Every Xander and their mother has Vantage. Luckily, Delphia can kill everyone. This was the problem with the last video I recorded, by the way. It seemed more like a Delphia spotlight than a Lloyd spotlight, and I didn't feel right releasing it. But now, Lloyd is a little better with that S support and all of those small extra buffs to his defensive stats that I feel like it's much easier to show him off. As you saw in the first match, he did pretty well at brute forcing Lyn, as well as Hector equals waifu. Nice name, dude. As well as tanking all the magic guys. Horse Emblem everywhere. And in Ike. Okay. So as usual, Faye. One thing that I suggest to a lot of people is having a designated Reinhardt counter. Just because of situations like this. Like, I don't think you guys have seen Faye do anything so far, except for tank Reinhardts. And just, she's so good for that. Like, all blues are immediately gone because of Faye. When I was first theorizing this team, I didn't think Faye would be as MVP as she ended up being. Okay. Let's see. Xander looking a little scary. I think that I am safe to put Lloyd in Xander's range. Just because there's no way Xander's going to double him. And 51 attack. Lloyd has enough stuff to deal with that. I'm going to be putting Olivia down here just to give Lloyd the slight support bonuses. Honestly, it doesn't really matter where you put Olivia, just because Wings of Mercy will be able to let her teleport next to Lloyd when he needs it anyway. So it lets you play around with supports a lot better like this to maximize that type of stuff. Okay. Ho ho ho. There's that iceberg putting in work. It's over 15 damage because 15 is from 30 res. Is this like a 17 damage iceberg? 16, 17. Even more from support. I think I want to save iceberg for Ike, however. There you go. One-shotted him. Alright. Well, you saw how Lloyd played there in those 3 videos. He can still dish out a lot of damage. You saw he had 60 attack with the Delphia buffs. Even more with his Regal Blade and the Olivia support bonuses. The S-rank support really helps him do even better at tanking as well as dishing out damage. And he plays a little differently from Swordmasters in that he can frontline, as you saw. So I hope you guys liked the video. I have a lot of fun using Lloyd, especially now. He's really fun to use in Tempest. It was very fun to farm him up because he gets even more Tempest bonuses. And you'll see another character that I'm farming in Tempest later, once I get him to his maximum potential. So I look forward to doing more of these videos. They're very fun. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you liked it.